Hello. First week of October, and I'm running out of days to sail here. We've got okay wind, gusts to 12, maybe 7 or 8 knots going on, so I should be able to use my full sails and get out and just stretch our legs for a few hours. A little foggy out there. This morning you couldn't see pea soup out there, but it's race night, so I'm going to be navigating through some boats, I guess, as I get out here, but see how it goes. 3 knots with just a head sail. It's really good. I don't know what the wind is, but it definitely feels like 7 to 10 knots. Consistent at the moment. Lots of sailboats. So, down there it's race night. They just got the start, I think, because they all started to move and they raised their sails all at the same time here. It's the last race of the season for whatever the 4 fun Hamilton Harbour races. So there's a mix of boats here from Royal Canadian, the Mikasa Bay, Harbour West, and then the LaSalle get together here usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays for a race night. So I'm just out for the pleasure cruise here tonight. Stretching my legs, first sail in a few weeks. Haven't been able to get through a lot of projects. Just got this work project undergo right now, which is really eating up a lot of my time. So that's one of the big things, I guess. It's taking me off track here, but that's okay. You got to do what you got to do, right? I'm going to tack right now, actually. Going upwind right now. Oh, oops. Kick her back. Oh no, I'm okay. The wind shifts here, spinning around the edge of the bay, so as you get more closer to the side when the wind's going this way, you end up slowly veering more and more over to the right, where I'm trying to go up there. So I'm going to try to stay out in the middle. That's not too bad, 4.5 knots speed over ground. I don't know my wind speed right now because my inometer is offline, so it's one of my projects I'm going to fix. Boat is getting hauled out in 3 weeks, so I said, well, rather than, if I have a good quiet night, I'll climb it, but otherwise I'm just not going to bother. I'm going to take it out when the mast is down. I'm going to install some mast steps so that I have a way to climb the mast in the future, just by scaling up. So I'm just going to bring her close over to this coast, and then I'm going to come down the side, and yeah, hopefully I don't get run over by any of these guys. There must be 30 boats out tonight. That's awesome. That's the finishing line right there, that cabin cruiser. He's anchored down, I think, or yeah, he's probably anchored down, I imagine. So all those boats are coming in for the race. So this is not my usual content, but I do like to cook, actually. Not everybody knows that. So what I'm making today is actually a variety of borscht. So I've got this Instant Pot because of the simplicity of the cooking, and then the space, and then the power draw, actually. So it only uses 675 watts, so it's very good for the inverter, and I can run it off grid. It's less than 1,000 watts. It's pretty good. So I'm going to make borscht, and the way that I do it is I use garlic, usually 1 or 2 cloves, and then I use beets. I like about half of a sweet onion, and then I usually take about half a cabbage, but this one's kind of small, so I'm going to basically kind of cut that down, and I basically shred everything. Some people put carrots in them, some people put potato, some people don't put cabbage, they just use beets. I like sometimes just a few things in there, texture-y, so I'm going to throw in some peppers, and I am going to use cabbage, but I don't have a carrot, so usually I would throw a carrot in as well, but I don't have that. And then the last thing is I've got about a half of, I don't really know how many, 900 milliliters, so I've got about 500 milliliters of vegetable broth. It's been sitting here for a while, so I want to use it. Every time I make soup, that's sort of my basic go-to. And then I top up to a certain amount with water. And in the Instant Pot, you're going to fill it up about halfway, I think, and then that's going to be enough. Put it on the pressure cook setting for not long at all. I think 5-10 minutes, 5 minutes of cooking, and then 5 minutes of letting the pressure release. That's all you need to do for this soup, so it's very quick too in the Instant Pot. I'll start with my garlic clove. So I think I'm just going to put 1 garlic in, so. And then I'm just going to slice this down. One thing I learned about garlic is the more or that are exposed to the water, the better the taste. So if you want it to be lighter, make them big chunks. And if you like it to have a lot of the garlic flavor, then cut it up. I just do slices. And I can tell by the smell that that's got a good garlic smell. Sometimes you get garlic and it's not very potent. So I'm only going to put 1. That's why I'm telling you that. When I get it on my hands, it does take a bit of time to get off my hands, so my hands are going to be red for a bit, but it cleans up off everything else. And for onions, I just like things kind of, not too big, not too small. And here on the boat, I've painted my counter with Interlux. It's doing a good job. The Interlux white bright side. Because it does make a mess, but it cleans up really good. Like I said, I'm impressed with this paint, actually. So that's 2 beets, and now just cabbage. Feed the fishies my beet scraps, I guess. So the Instant Pot has this half full marker. You just don't want to go more than that. So when I pat all this down and I add the liquid, I just don't want the fluid to be more than a half. I can go a little bit over, but that's basically what I'm using as a guide. The nice thing about cabbage is it stays a long time on a boat. So I am making a huge mess here, so I'm just going to try to keep the big pieces out of the way. So I actually only put a half of cabbage in. And my last item is the pepper. And this is just to give me a bit of chunkiness, and potato works out good in little chunks if you dice it. So I'm going to add my... Okay. So that's at the halfway mark. I push this, I press pressure cook. I think it auto starts on its own. Yep, there it goes. So it's basically going to run, build up pressure, and cook everything for 5 minutes. And yeah, my pot, or my borscht will be ready. 10 minutes after cooking, press this little button, and then lets the pressure out. And that's what my borscht looks like. So I normally just add pepper and stuff afterwards in case somebody likes less salt and more pepper or whatever their preference is. Bon appetit. Alright, so this is the last of my electrical area. I'm just going to finish relocating the VHF radio, but that's basically the last thing that I have in there. Alright. So there's like 3 predominant size cables for VHF radios on boats. RG58U, the smallest, going all the way up to RG213, the thickest. My cable's the one in the middle, RG8X. It's 1/4 inch, and over 25 feet of cable, 25 watts drops to 19 watts. So it loses a little bit because of the resistance in the cable. That's why you want the best cable you can get.
Cubby hole. That's just a pain.
There we go. And then come out through here in the front somewhere so that I can put my VHF radio, you know, even potentially up top here somewhere. So I'm thinking about having it something like this so that way I can stand up and use it. Got all my wires tidied up. So I'm going to mount the VHF device here, the radio mount, and it's looking like the hole on the inside is going to come out right here, which is like adequate for me. I have this is going to be a little bit of a cubby hole for some electricals, so I haven't finished this part here, so I haven't finished the closet. But basically, I'm going to have a wood piece coming out, and then I'm going to fiberglass it, but make it removable. So that way I can get access to this wiring in here. So I wanted to make this little column kind of like a central wiring hub for my closet or any other lights I have right now. So for example, those are all of my emergency lights. And then this one here, I don't have it hooked up yet, will be all my cabinetry lights. These are my main lights. And then I'm going to mount the little clip for the VHF probably right here. And then I'll put my channel on it right there. And if I choose to, I can move it like this at a later date by putting a little angle so I can have it facing outwards. But for now, I'm just going to put it in like that and then drill through. So it looks like as long as I'm about here, the base of that, then I'm going to have my hole in the right direction. So basically about halfway up between these two things where I want to mount this. Beauty. And now I've got this here I can tack in. Although it's tight, it's going to work. Alright, so it's going to run this wire and I'm all good. I might have just enough to get it into something, but I think I have to extend those wires. I think that what I learned about power to VHF is you want good power. You don't want it to be chintzy at all. So that'll be right on the main breaker. Or easiest space to work. It's pretty awkward. That should be enough to work with these wires here now. That is a tight squeeze. More or less. Maybe a little less sometimes. And then the back wall's looking really good. Nice and clean. And I got a spare wire up there on the ground, so I just have it coiled. Basically everything's looking good. So I'm just going to wipe that down and get rid of all the dust. I've got to change the label, but that'll be power on. And now I should be able to put this on.
Sunday night, cloudy period, low 14.
I've got the radio on and the Raymarine, and I've turned off the charging. I've unplugged everything, so I'm just running totally off the batteries here at the moment. And as soon as the GPS figures out the satellites, okay, there we go. Looks like 0.32 amps, 17 watts, and that's at the volts right now is 53.83 volts. It's using very little, actually, the chart plotter with the built-in GPS. I don't have an external GPS antenna, so I do want to add that so I get a little bit more accuracy, because it does pop in and out every once in a while. And I'm not transmitting, so I'm just receiving. So the power draw included that. So that's about all I have on. Just to turn it off, you can see here I'm using 0.31 amps, 17 watts, 16 watts. It's 17 watts. So turning off the VHF radio, it's down to 12 watts from 17. So that's just using 5 to read. Turn the breaker off to the chart plotter entirely. So right now I've got my fridge on, and that's about it. So I'm using 0.16, 0.17 amps for my fridge and my Nature's Head fan. There's like a little 12 volt blower fan in it. So we're using 0.17 amps or 9 watts. So I'm going to turn off that and all the LED lighting. But so turning that off is not really doing anything. So basically, all my power here that I've been consuming, 9 watts or 0.17, is on my my lights and the little 12 volt fan that I have. So when I first hooked up the or tore apart the old DC panel and I put that blue C panel in, I refiberglassed, I painted everything, so I didn't actually drill any holes. So the last couple little tidy up projects was get the chart plotter installed, which I now have over here outside so I can see it while I'm sailing, and the VHF. So the next thing that I'm going to want to do is just get myself a different VHF radio that I have a second mic, because I don't think that one can do it. It's a standard Horizon 1400, I think is what it is. So I might have to change the unit. And the other thing is I just want to back up AIS. So if my chart plotter ever died, I do want AIS alarms on the VHF radio, because I'll be keeping that running. Okay, so here's the smart battery monitoring. So basically I've got 0.17 volts on, but going into my solar charger, right now I've got 0 watts and 0 because I've got it off. So I'm going to go into battery, enable the charger, and it'll take a second to kick in. But now it's showing, okay, I got 76 volts, 75 volts, 53 volts, 67 volts, so 18 watts. So getting back, this is at 60 volts, so it's converting 53 volts. So it's doing a little bit of charging right now, this 0.3 amps. I mean, I haven't used very much here, but just turning it off and on. So now when I go back to the battery, you'll see that the current actually shows 0 or 0.1. So effectively what's happening is that or the current is actually, positive, it's not negative. That's one of the advantages. So I'm not actually using any battery power right now. I guess the way that electrons work is that they want to take the path of least resistance. So when you have the batteries in line I've got a 48 volt to 12 volt DC to DC buck converter to drop the voltage down for all my internal boat working. So I'm actually running that all the time off of the batteries. So I don't have a house bank and a dedicated propulsion bank, we'll call it, maybe for a motor bank. I do have them just running off the one. I didn't see the point. I said, you know what, if they're always using it, etc., etc. But what happens is that when I have the solar charger on, the solar charger is actually providing voltage for anything that's on, so it's not really even using the batteries. And then it's detecting, oh, the batteries might be a bit weak based upon their voltage, and then it's charging. So it's interesting. Voltages are decent, then the solar's going to kick in. So you can see here, it's passing 0.3 amps down to the battery, so it's reading the positive current, so it is charging them right now. Even though I'm only getting 20 watts out of the panels, there's just basically no sun at the moment. Cloudy, rainy, Canada, and it's October. All of that is working against me, so I think it's still working pretty good. Yeah, so anyways, thanks for watching. That's the end of this installing the chart plotter and VHF radio project. Thank you.